Hi there. Okay, so today we're talking about why I think addiction is, sorry, I'll try not to drop the table. Why I think depression is an addiction. And the reason I believe that, and we've got to start kind of at the beginning. Okay, so the first 7 years you are being socialized. And part of that socialization is how parents help children adapt to their outside reality, the planet Earth. And so first 7 years of any child's life, you're in basically a hypnotizable state called theta. It's a brainwave state where you're not conscious, you're not thinking, you're just being, and you're taking all the messages from the outside and they are informing you of who you are and the world around you. So all those messages that you take in, so when your parents love you and care for you and feed you, you feel safe, you feel warm and safe and content, and the first couple of years is usually pretty good. Most parents are really good at that, and this is not about blaming parents, but I am going to say it as it is because it needs to be said. So your parents, bless their hearts, are doing the best they can. So they feed you, they clothe you, they make sure you're safe and warm. Then you get to the 2s, and this is where you start to exert your independence. So you go out there and you're touching things you don't want to be touching, you're running out into traffic, you don't know the dangers around you. So parents are very, mindful. It's 24/7. I mean, it's exhausting. I've got 3 kids of my own, so I know, looking after kids, making sure they don't die, making sure they're safe, and it is hard work. And this is just part of the socialization process. So hold that thought. So you're 0 to 7, you're being conditioned and brainwashed. You are being programmed. That program, because your brain is a biocomputer, so you're being programmed just like you do a computer, and whatever gets set in those first 7 years is what you're going to be for the next 60, 70, 80. And what I mean by that, it's the hard wiring that, just like a computer gets, if you hardwired a computer, then you are setting the program that's going to run for the rest of that computer's time. And we are very similar. So, for example, you're 2, 3 years old and you're getting told, no, don't do that. No, don't push your little brother and sister over. No, don't put your fingers in that hole. We're trying to help you stay safe, right? So parents are just doing their best. It's not parents' fault, and I'm not blaming parents. This is about saying it as it is, though, because we as children cannot differentiate, no, I'm doing something wrong, to no, I'm wrong. So as far as I'm concerned, every single one of us has experienced trauma growing up. And what I mean by that is trauma isn't something that happens to you, it happens inside of you. And every time you felt scared and alone, that would have registered as trauma. Now they're the small T's, they're not the big one moment in time, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. This is more complex than that. It's a complex stress, post-stress disorder. And what I mean by that is the small T's, right? So you are, happily as a kid, and you act badly as a kid. This is when you kind of, push your bite, scratch, you just want all the toys. And of course, parents are trying to make you a human being on the planet, right? And help you adjust to the planet and what it takes to be a human being. But in that process, as a child, you're just trying to survive. And what that means is, I'm just trying to survive my childhood. So we call it the stance of survival, because that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to survive. So these are the godlike parents in your life, okay? And of course you need them to love you, because if they don't love you, then you're dead. See, children don't think, they think black and white. I'm either loved or I'm not loved. I'm abandoned, I'm rejected. So as children, we want our parents to love us, so we will do whatever we need to do to be a good little boy and girl. And so we will pretzel ourselves and twist and turn because I need mummy and daddy to love me. And if they don't, then I'm out. I'm dead. I'm out of the tribe, the group, the gang, whatever, the family. And so this is why children are extremely adaptable. They will adapt, and what they see growing up is what they believe to be true. And they believe that this is normal. And this is why children are so vulnerable, because we are the parents and we have all the power. And so, you know, to make them do what we want to do, it's like, no, get to bed. Mum's upset. And in that moment, if you felt scared and alone, then that registers as trauma. So just take that in a minute. Take that in. Okay, so every time you cried or you went down to mummy and you said, I'm scared, mummy, and she said, oh, don't be silly, come on, off to bed, right? So every time you go to your parents, this is where we all get fucked up. I'm just going to say it as it is. This is where it all goes wrong, because we go to our parents, and I did this too. You know, I did it all wrong. But anyway, not completely wrong. They're all survived and they're all still alive and doing quite well. So I would rationalise their feelings. So a child comes to you, oh, I'm scared. Oh, look, I hurt myself. What do we do as parents? Oh, it's okay. Rub it. Here's a lollipop. Mummy, there's a scary boogeyman under my bed. Don't be silly. Come on, up to bed. So what we're doing all the time is actually saying, when we go to our parents with our little hearts, they're trying to make us manage. They're trying to make us feel okay. And a lot of the time they weren't empathic, because back in the day, children were seen and not heard, right? So if you think about that, it's only the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years maybe. But anyone over that probably got the same kind of, you know, children weren't that important. You know, our needs weren't really, you know, if I went to home and said, oh, my teacher was being mean to me, I would have often got told, well, what did you do wrong? So it's all my fault. If my teacher's mean, then it must be my fault. Everything's my fault. I'm to blame. So the first 7 years, and this is why in the Bible it says, show me the boy and I'll show you the man, because they know that what happens in the first 7 years is going to dictate who you are. So this is a way, it's like, so you have a feeling, which is very normal. As a kid, we just cry when we're sad. We get angry when we don't get our own way. Our feelings are very kind of out there. We don't know how to repress, deny and avoid them. But we are taught to do that. We're taught to rationalise. We're taught to, no, don't feel that way. You know, I mean, I remember saying this to my child. It's like, she would come home one day. I think she came home one day and said, oh, I've got no friends. And I went, of course you have. You've got loads of friends. In that moment, I gaslit her. What she was saying was, I feel sad. I've got no friends. And what did I do? I just said, oh, of course you have. I totally denied what she felt and thought. I said, no, that's not true. What I say is true. And this is the power of parents. And we're ignorant. We don't realise this stuff. And now I do, because I've learned a lot. And so the first 7 years, you're being taught how to manage your feelings. Now, in the beginning, you are soothed the first couple of years. But then after that, it's like, no, stop having a tantrum. You're being a naughty boy, or you're being a naughty girl. Don't do that. And of course, these are the messages that we're receiving, right? And they come from the outside and they come in and they start to inform us of who we are, right? So if I'm ignored, if I'm neglected, if I'm punished, if I'm hit, if I'm smacked, if I'm told over and over again, no, your feelings don't matter. No, you actually don't feel that way. What do I learn? As a form of survival, repress, deny and avoid. And so as I'm repressing, denying, avoiding, what I'm doing is I'm learning how to deal with my emotions, which basically means I'm not dealing with them. I'm just repress, deny and avoid them. And the trouble is you can't actually do that, because what happens is it's like holding a ball under a water. Well, you can do it for a certain amount of time, but all of a sudden those feelings will shoot out. Now maybe that'll come out in an angry outburst or aggressive behaviour or lashing out, or you might actually withdraw. And so you repress and then you pull back. So a lot of people will either act out of them, so they're the maximizers. The minimizers will withdraw, pull them back into ourselves and just withdraw. You'll go in your room, you won't want to talk to anyone, you will want to be alone, you'll spend, and this is how we've all been traumatized. We've all been traumatized and we've all been fucked up. God bless them, parents did their best job, but sometimes it wasn't good enough for us. So you're always going to have to overcome your childhood. Doesn't matter how good or bad they are. Now there's varying degrees. You know, if I'm beaten every day, then what's the message I'm hearing? Well, I'm not okay. And of course we come to our own conclusions, because children are egocentric, which means everything's about me. So when mum and daddy split up or divorce, oh, it must be my fault, I'm a bad kid. Now that's just a normal stage of development. So we become habitual, and it's great that we are, because that's why we know how to get in the car and drive the car. It's good to have that habitual memory function, but actually when you repress, deny and avoid, that is not right. So this is what happens. You repress, deny and avoid, and you either turn it inward. Those people generally are anxious and depressed. The ones that turn it outward are aggressive and moody and, volatile, and they act out. And so sometimes we'll do one or the other, tend to be. Okay, so the ones that act out, if that's really bad, they actually might go attack and kill another. The ones that turn it inward, they're more likely to actually go kill themselves. And this is why people kill themselves. This is why people don't even know that, oh my God, they were so fine, they were good, and all of a sudden they kill themselves. Well, they probably repressed, denied and turned it inwards. And actually, when you hold on to that energy, a bit like I was saying in the forgiveness one, about, well, what happens? What happens is it builds up and builds up. And of course, resentment leads to, I need to punish you, or I need to punish me, depending which way we kind of focus. And we tend to know people who are more dynamic, they're more outward going, they're more like, oh, they're out there. Not always, and I'm just generalizing here. So, and if this resonates with you, take it on board. If it doesn't, just forget it, leave it alone. So there's these two kinds of people. So is depression, which is repression. Now, depression is completely normal. If something terrible happens, we will often depress our emotions, and that's how we cope. Nothing wrong with that, completely normal. But then the emotions will come back online. That's repression. But if you keep doing it, it becomes depression. So is this just a chronic thing that people do over and over again? Depress, so because they don't want to feel their pain. We've been taught, stop crying. If you cry, I'll give you some. I mean, this is what we were taught back in the day. I'll give you something to cry for. You should think yourself lucky. Like we weren't allowed to say no. Children were seen and not heard for years, and it was normal. So it was just the structure we were brought up in. And so I'm not blaming anyone here. We're all doing our best. But my generation were brought up by post-war parents. What was their focus? Work hard, put food on the table, because if you don't eat, you die. And so their focus was on earning money. My dad worked 7 days a week. My mum worked her fingers to the bone. And yes, they didn't have the time and the energy, because no one did it back in the day. Children were seen and not heard. We weren't actually that important. What did that do to me? How did the first 7 years impact on me? What did that experience, if I wasn't given time, attention, love, affection, affirmation, validation? Well, the conclusion I had to come to was, I'm not very important. I'm insignificant. I'm unlovable. I'm not worthy. And this is why we have people that have such low self-worth. And I'm not saying they don't function. I was functional, but I was not okay. I was deeply insecure. I had chronic anxiety. I wasn't a depressive because I acted out. I was angry. I became a rageaholic, because this is what I would do, because this is what we do. I'd repress it for a long time, and then all of a sudden I couldn't do that anymore, and it would come shooting out in a rage attack. And the reason it's called rageaholism is because once I started, I couldn't stop, a bit like an alcoholic. And so because I built up, whoosh, and out it would come, and I would just be moaning and carrying on like a pork chop. I mean, I didn't hit people with my fist, but I hurt them with my words. And then I hated myself. And the cycle, and I'd go around again. And it's cyclic. And this is why they call it the cycle of abuse. Because, and I was abusing people. I was abusing my family. I was scaring them shitless, Excuse the French. So, is depression an addiction? And this is what any doctor will tell you. Once you're depressed, you're more likely to get depressed. Well, why is that? Because you've just got used to doing this. You have been told, and not only just told, but you see, when you go to your parents with your emotions, your little heart, and they go, no, don't do that. No, stop crying. No, you're not allowed to be angry. No, don't. Well, our emotions are now shame-based. So when I show you and reveal to you my emotion, and you say no, oh God, no. So I'm unloved when I reveal my emotion. I'm not accepted. I'm not approved of. My mummy doesn't like it, therefore she's not going to love me. And if she doesn't love me, then I'm dead. So can you see how in the beginning it's like a survival stance that no, I need to repress this, and it just becomes a bad habit that we do over and over again, and it's a coping mechanism. My feelings weren't safe, right? When I brought them out, I was told, no, you're unlovable when you do that. So my feelings are now unsafe. So I learned to repress, deny, and avoid as a form of survival. But then you take that into your life where you don't acknowledge your own emotions. In fact, when you have them, you just, or you act out of them. So one way you're out of control, and this way you feel like you're in control, like you just repress them. But they come out sideways. And this is why people who actually are quite nice generally, but will come out with these spiteful little comments or sarcasm or criticism or complain. You see, that pain's got to come out somehow, because it will just build up if it doesn't. So even the repressors, they go around slamming cupboards and like mumbling under their breath, and like they look at you as if like they could kill you. So they're more passive aggressive. So it does come out, believe me. They're not all lovely. And the ones that are openly aggressive, well, they just scare the shit out of everyone. But in a way it works. It's a coping mechanism. So when I shout and yell, people back off and they leave me alone. And so yes, I do think depression is an addiction. It's a form of addiction, just like drugs, spending too much money, wanting to be successful, alcohol, anything you do to try and cope with what we consider uncomfortable feelings can become an addiction. So yes, I do think depression's an addiction. So what do you think? Doesn't matter what I think. What do you think? This is just my opinion. This is what I've learned through 30 years of study, experience, and working with clients. And what I've learned, and I've seen a lot of people, right? And it's themes, and I see these themes, the people that come in, the same issues. A lot of people come in and go, yeah, but my childhood was fine, and I'm sorry. I go, no, probably it wasn't. Were you socialized on the planet? Then your upbringing was not fine. And this is what people find it, because they're very loyal, and God forbid you say anything negative about your parents. They were doing their best, but they failed miserably at times, especially if you were over the age of 20, 25, because we were brought up in a seen and not heard generation. So what does that, and it has long-lasting impact. So if you don't change this basic wiring, you ain't changing nothing. And that's why you can go and see a therapist, and it can help. Believe me, it can help. But you will, down the track, just kind of revert back to your basic conditioning. And it wasn't until I rewired this, my hard wiring, that my baseline became, it was here. Because if anything really stressful happened, I'd be like, oh, well, just totally piece of crap, unlovable, not worthy, unimportant. When I changed my wiring, I didn't go back to that place. I kind of, no, I'm actually okay. I'm a good person. I always believed I was bad. I was wrong. When your parents tell you something, you believe them. They're the godlike figures in your life. And if they don't approve of you, well, you're dead. So I hope this explains something. And obviously hopefully this will help you understand why you do the things you do. Why? Because when you repress and deny, what you're doing is you're rejecting your own self. You're actually rejecting your own emotional part. Now, this is who you are, not this. This is just a biocomputer that gets programmed. This is who you are. So when you repress and deny, you repress and deny yourself. You reject self. And that is what a lot of people struggle with. Anyway, I hope that's helpful. If you want me to cover any more subjects, I've got a list of subjects I want to cover and put out there. But if there's anything particular you want me to talk about, then just let me know. Anyway, thank you for listening. I hope you have a good day, and you take care.